moving on to something similar. Elizabeth Warren wants to give $57 million in taxpayer money as reparations to the LGBT couples of America. Now, she's already introduced this in this legislation, just so you know. Okay, the legislation is that because we stopped LGBT people from getting married for so long, they weren't able to take advantage of the tax breaks available to married couples, which, by the way, there aren't that many, and most married couples don't get them anyway, because it increases their income class when you include two salaries. But it doesn't matter. She wants to now give them reparations for all of the years they weren't permitted to get married.
You know, this always comes to the problem I had discussing gay marriage with the advocates, because I always thought it came down to a question like, what is society incentivizing? Is it incentivizing reproduction, or is it incentivizing pair bonding as an effective social safety net? Because if we can get people to start teaming up to handle life, that's a lot less we have to worry about. But you could never get them away from this romantic ideal that it was all about love.
I can't understand why this money is purely going to couples. Like, usually, this is probably a cultural thing in the Americas, in the US. Like, usually when a party or the government or the politicians try to subsidize anything, they try to have the money go to the families, because family is such a core value in the US. Like, okay, let's be real. Honestly, they're just trying to hook up the women. That's what's always going on. But they at least have to like play lip service. Okay, this is about children's. This is the angle they usually go with. Why in the fuck's name is this going to LGBT couples? I can't see anything here saying about the kids. Like, what the fuck, man? What reparations? Someone explain this to me.
Okay, it's time for a pop quiz. Why did the government recognize marriages? Was it A, to incentivize children, B, to recognize religion, or C, none of the above?
I'm guessing C.
It is C. Do you know why they did it? It was the easiest way to recognize a non-blood related dependent. Everybody was married. That's the way that it was. It was just a simple way for someone to say, oh, I'm putting this person on my health insurance, or I'm leaving money to this person so that a woman could inherit after the man died without having to go through an unnecessary amount of paperwork to prove that they were related to the person who just died. So they recognized everybody as a married couple. That's why I had said from the first point, I don't understand the gay marriage movement, because if it's about medical proxy or if it's about survivor benefits, then why not just pass a law recognizing a civil union? Because a civil union, if they make everybody just file for a civil union, all benefits are taken care of and you don't have to worry anymore about what about marriage. But then you realize that it wasn't really an attack on recognizing marriage or about benefits. It was an attack on the church, because if you recognize a gay marriage, it's a right, and it's a right that everybody has to recognize your love for each other, which is just a feeling. But now you can go into a Catholic church and say, oh, you've got to perform this ceremony, and they say, well, it's against our religion. What are you, denying me my right to recognize who I love?
This article is just so dumb. I'm out of more words to speak. You guys go ahead.
Well, this is what the 2020 campaign is going to focus on entirely, almost. Go ahead, MG Truck.
Man, he's got some real shitty connection out there right now.
Who does?
Hey, MG Truck. But maybe while we're waiting for him to come back, so you think that's the trend the upcoming election is going to take, is just this drumbeat of various reparations and...
Well, also remember, and again, me and TFM talked about this the other night on my channel, was that there are certain communities that were going over to the right in droves. And one of them was the gay community. And why? Because of Islam. Because they were seeing the Democrats recognizing Islam as being a religion of peace and all of this stuff. But at the same time, these are the same people that want to take power and throw them off of rooftops. So you were seeing more and more like Milo types and people like that who are coming to the right solely because the right seemed to be against Islam invading the West. And they came back because they came over to the right, and the right says, memorials, I can't recognize anything that you guys do because it's degenerate. And they went back to the left, and now the left wants to solidify their position on the left. Like, how dare you leave the plantation? So now they're offering Gibbs to anybody whatsoever who was thinking about going to the right. Why do you think they consider Candace Owens, as much as I despise her, to be, such a threat? Because she's convincing people that the right will give the black community more Gibbs, which they probably would given the opportunity. But you can't fight the commies on Gibbs, because they'll just keep offering. They don't care. If you say you'll give them a 25% tax break, they'll just say, I'll give you a 30.
Okay, so I got an idea, and this will actually help some of our MGTOW brothers. What you do is, if you know a rich person like Phil, who's thinking about immigrating to the US, arrange a contract with this dude, get married with him while you're a dude, get your Gibbs me dads from the government and get your brother over, start a compound with him, start prepping. Then, when you're both in the US or whatever fucking country you want to go to, change both of your genders to female at the same time, and you're probably gonna get even more Gibbs me dads. Honk honk the clown world, okay?
He who honks loudest honks longest.
Yep.
Okay, we'll talk about this next thing, because I wasn't prepared to, but obviously I can easily.
Nice article, because Jesus hadn't even.
Yeah, I would have sober catted
kind of
it.
a horrifying prospect.
Yeah,
Well,
I would have sober catted it myself, but I'm in a meeting.
No, I'm just not sure where to go with that, because that's fairly. It's horrifying that it's even a viable prospect.
So at the request of Belverk, we have Sanders proposes canceling the entire $1.6 trillion in U.S. student loans.
And this
No,
isn't
this
something.
done with a gimme to the banks directly instead of through the borrower.
Yeah, notice how it's. I mean, this isn't the first time it's been proposed either. Of course, TFM called it, but yeah, it's really no surprise, because now that they have so much debt, there's more debt than there is money. So they have to come up with some sort of solution. And frankly, you have all these people that go to college and they shouldn't have gone to college in the first place. I mean, underwater basket weaving is not a career that's really going to get you a decent job. They get these bogus degrees and then they complain that they're oppressed because they can't find jobs, because nobody wants to hire a gender studies major, or should I say, women's studies major. Because, like, what does that even entail? How is that entitled you to working for a big tech company? It's like they want to force their way in through diversity, or should I say, die-versity.
Well, they're also, remember this, I have one of my best friends, his sister, he has a lesbian sister. She has a PhD in queer studies. Now, she has not been able to articulate to me what that means, but whatever. So the only job she can get with a PhD in queer studies is to teach queer studies. But because there's just not that many colleges teaching queer studies, she has to move like once every 2 years, because she has to go find another college that's willing to hire her to teach queer studies. So it's the same thing. Now with the female studies or the gender studies, they can become diversity officers. So they become foot soldiers of the left, because now when they convince every single corporation to hire a diversity manager or executive, now they have the people to do it. So they hire these screaming SJWs who come in and go, why is it that you only have 11.8% black people when they make up 12% of the population? It's time to fire some white people. Same thing with Jews, same thing with everything. They look at population statistics and say, you're a bigot because you're not adhering to population statistics. And they cause lawsuits, which bring down the power of these large companies. But real quick to the student loan thing, remember this, the 1.6 trillion number that Sanders is using includes the interest that is owed to the banks. So remember this, his proposal in order to pay for it is to put a tax on Wall Street, to make a transactional tax on all stock trades and things like that. Why do you think Wall Street isn't out on the press losing their minds over this and saying it's going to crash the economy? Because they see a massive wealth transfer into their coffers in the first place, because they're going to get paid all the interest that was supposed to be paid over 30 years at once from this wealth transfer to them, if it ever passes.
Right, and because they're always, I'm sorry, Coyote, but they're always talking about taxing the rich. They always see this rich as like this big money pig that's just this infinite and bottomless pit of money. Because not every rich person is, or should I say, it's not like Scrooge McDuck from the from DuckTales, where every rich person has this huge money bin where they just jump off a springboard and then just swim in all these gold coins and dollar bills and so on and so on. It's not like that, because the reason why people are rich is because they make smart decisions. They know a thing or two about economics, which the left in general does not. Hence why they talk, like when Vox actually talks about stuff like this. It actually is very effective on stupid people, because stupid people they know nothing about economics, but largely because they're not even taught. There is this video from Vox that someone linked me about 2 or 3 months ago, and they were talking about how they could more effectively tax the 1%. It's utterly ridiculous. I really should find that again. Should probably do a video on it, because it's so ridiculously stupid, and it's all about the whole thing is word salad. They use things like child poverty, which is basically just saying give money to single mothers, and other ways of just giving money to the sponges of society. Sorry, I went on a rant and forgot what I was about to say next.
It was great.
Well,
It was
no,
great, but also, but you just brought up a good point. Is look, let's take Jeff Bezos, the devil, as an example, right? The majority of his wealth is not sitting in a pool somewhere that he can swim in. It's in stock. It's in Amazon stock, right? If
Exactly.
they all of a sudden decided that he had to pay 60% of his wealth in taxes, he would have to liquidate that stock, which would probably A, crash Amazon, and B, diversify the ownership so that the other rich people who are more thinking the way they want are going to get involved. And now all of a sudden, the pension funds, all of a sudden, the union funds, they're all going to get involved and start getting ownership of these different companies. And you're going to start loosening the power of people that have money and giving it to the people that are preferred groups, because they're the people that invest as conglomerates. So in order to do that, you're going to destroy the individual wealth and focus that wealth on industries that support Democrats.
well, yeah,
Exactly.
that's where I think you identified, Halsey, the bait that's being used to sink this hook of regulatory capture is they're going to convince the banks, they're going to convince the stock market to take its transaction tax or whatever they ultimately negotiate this out to, with a trick of, like you pointed out, hey, we'll give you all 30 years of interest now. And that just looks so appetizing. They're going to swallow the hook of, yeah, you're not going to consider the cost of all this extra regulation and taxation on your industry to begin with, or your entire sector of financial services.
Well, remember, they think transactionally as well. They think that, oh, great, we're going to get this huge influx of wealth. We'll deal with any negative repercussions that come after it. But they know that they must anticipate that the moment after they do the student loan thing, that Sanders is going to go, well, this just turned out to be a boon for all of the banks because they made all that interest right up front. Now we have to pay for college for everybody, and we're going to ask the banks to do it because we just gave them this huge influx of cash, and they took advantage of everybody. And the banks are going to sit back and go, oh, shit.
And now we
Yeah,
have to nationalize the banks, nationalize all these companies and industries. Welcome to communism. That's
Yep.
literally his plan. You could have told it from the day he visited Soviet Russia. He idolizes these guys. Nah,
Yeah,
this is rough.
exactly. Exactly, because I mean, socialism. I mean, socialists are going to socialize, and this is basically their plan in a nutshell. So Halsey basically stole the words right out my mouth, and I kind of forgot what I was about to say next. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. Now I remember. You see, this is the dangers of short-term thinking. You think about the short term and your immediate needs. I understand it's a natural thing to think about your immediate needs, but not thinking about the distant future is also another thing that's going to not only screw you, but the future in the long run. Although most people, they want their immediate needs done because they think, yeah, I'm going to be dead by then, so yeah, who cares about the next generation? Whereas they don't care about the children and so on. And man, I'm sorry, I'm not used to ranting. I forget where I'm
Societal
going.
cancer. Yeah, I can take it from here. So there are still libertarians and other free market people in 2019 who actually believe the socialists didn't win. No, they actually won. They won over 20 years ago. Now I can't point to exactly when they did this, but when they brought all these necessary uh, human resources department people, fucking diversity officers, gender quota officers. They're just the modern day version of the fucking Gestapo. Like, we already have socialist officers that are required by the states to have in your company after your company exceeds 25 or 50 people. I think that's what the limitation is in California, at least right now. And but this is why I'm glad our guy Oslo Mektau brought this article to our attention. Like, DFM he called this was gonna happen over 2 months ago, and let's be fair here, he wasn't the only one. Like, there are a lot of other Red Pill and Mektau guys who knew, yup, Bernie is gonna sell his platform on the promises of communism and all the other consequences of this that will lead to further centralization of power. Like we say, the centralization of power is always the problem. And like,
And also, the bottom line is this. Now, I can say this because there's nobody around my desk right now, but there is a reason why college was exclusive and not all inclusive. You see, and this is also the big problem with universal suffrage and why not everybody who isn't a net taxpayer or is an active military reserve should vote. Because when they start voting, because they're going to start voting for free stuff, free college, free healthcare, and free everything. Because they if they're not paying taxes, then they don't really care because they don't understand what it's like to have taxes stolen from them. Because it kind of goes back to this whole scripture in the Bible where it says, if a man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. Now, I understand why something like that would be there because freeloaders, they are a burden on your society. They're a burden on the hardworking people as well. So, frankly, no, universal suffrage is not a good thing. Universal college is not a good thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if our ancestors knew that this is why you don't educate women. And I'm just going to flat out say it. Because when you start educating women and educating people that shouldn't be in college, then what happens is that they start demanding everything, and you can't give someone the world because if they don't appreciate what they have now, they're not going to appreciate the world, giving them the entire world.
So I've heard it described like this, and I've heard drug addiction described very similar. You're sitting on the beach, right, and you're basking in this great sun, and you're feeling fantastic because you're warm and you're comfortable and you're happy, and then the sun starts to set. So you go out into the ocean and you start swimming towards it, going, the only thing I want is to feel that way again. And the sun just keeps getting further, and you keep swimming further and further out because you keep saying, well, it's worth it to keep swimming because I'd rather keep swimming towards it than go back to where it came from and have to swim through the dark. So you're going to have to keep doing that and doing that and doing that. Think about healthcare, right? They universalize healthcare, say Medicare for all, and they tax the rich. They do whatever they're going to do to get the money to pay for it. Well, obviously, it's going to suck right off the bat. So what they're going to say is it only sucks because we haven't paid enough money into it. So they're going to start confiscating more wealth in order to do so. And every day it's going to be, we need more money because we're almost there at utopia, but we just need a little more money. And it's always going to be worth it to keep giving them the more money as opposed to swimming back in the dark. So this is how they nationalize everything, is they just make it more painful to go back to the old way than it is to keep chasing the dream that they're never going to get.
yeah, so to wrap up the short rants we were going on earlier, like, everyone who's actually paid attention to politics, and especially the more obviously socialist leaning politicians, we knew this was coming. All of us knew that they'd try forgiving the debts, they'd try implementing more retarded social economic policies with the promises of gives me debts. But honestly, that's not the interesting part. What I want to see is how well Bernie is actually going to perform in the primaries, because this is going to tell us how many people there are in the US who can't actually think long term at all. Like, I don't think he's actually going to win because, like, if you know anything about, like, causation, you can see that's not going to end up well. So I don't think he's actually be the Democratic nominee, but I just want to see what his numbers are going to be, because that will be very telling of the direction US is going in as a nation.
Weirdly, given that his platform effectively comes with a bank bailout, I think for once he might actually be a viable candidate, in the sense that they might actually put him up, because previously his rhetoric was kind of anti-bank, so he wasn't able to get their support. But now, if his stance includes a bank bailout, I think those backers
Oh
are going to
God.
be willing to take the social hit. Like, yeah, sure, say we're the bad guys while you give us money. We don't give a fuck.
No, yeah, that's entirely possible. And the other candidates of the Democratic Party, they like most people in the US barely know these people. So he's up against some very weak candidates. So yeah, you're right. He might actually have a shot now. Holy shit.
But remember how we got George W. Bush? I mean, this was a long time ago, so whatever. But we got George W. Bush because the presumptive nominee for the Republican nomination at that point was Forbes, who nobody wanted, right? So they pushed George W. Bush as a compassionate conservative, and the party just immediately jumped on and pushed this guy because, oh my God, we need to stop Forbes because Forbes will destroy the party. That's why they encouraged Biden to get in, because they realized that Sanders was the natural choice because so many people liked him from the last election. So at this point, they're trying to dilute his support by putting Biden in there, even though Biden is so flawed, and pushing him everywhere. They're saying, oh, he's the natural guy. He's going to defeat Trump. I mean, the guy is barely conscious. And yet the Democrats are pushing this crusty old white man who's barely conscious because they're afraid of Bernie Sanders.
Yep.
I don't know, but I think that's what I'm pointing out, is that I think they might learn that they don't have anything to fear from Bernie Sanders. They're like, oh, a giant government subsidy comes if we help him get into office.
Yeah, I think it's about time we moved on, or don't you
I completely agree. Our brains are starting to commit aneurysm. Let's move on.
Well, I actually don't have any more articles, so it's been 2 hours. I think it's a decent time to call the show.
Wait, did we really do them all?
There was one that I still have. I mean, I could still do it. I just don't. I'm not positive that it actually matters. This one.
I mean, lately we've done 3-hour shows, so if you have time, I can look up some dank shit from our 420 letterbox, if that's fine with you.
I'm not in any rush. I'd be happy to keep going. So if you want, why don't we also turn to the audience? If there's any articles that you guys want, throw them in the Discord, and we'll be happy to bring them up.
Fuck yeah.